When it comes to giving your kids a little edge in life, where do you draw the line?
I've got the community center, I've got this music school, I've got that gymnastics center, so it's just crazy.
Dance, soccer, piano, math tutoring, after-school gym. Too much? A whole generation of Canadians is growing up with unprecedented parental involvement. So how's that all working out?
Pack it properly?
Yep.
Okay.
Adolescence has always been a period of rebellion, and why these kids aren't pushing back is stunning to me.
Hovering mums and dads mean well, of course, but when the little darlings hit the workplace,
the child has had a problem with a supervisor, the parent might call. We've even heard of instances where parents have tried to negotiate salary.
I'm Anne-Marie McDonald. In this Doc Zone, hyper parents and coddled kids. London's Trafalgar Square, a gathering place for the world's young adults, slipping the bonds of family and savoring the sweet taste of independence. Or not.
Hi, Mom.
My mom, every day.
I normally text or call every day.
Yeah, most days. Just an email or a text or something.
Keep them happy.
Well, the cell phone is the longest umbilical cord in history, isn't it? You know, kids leave the home physically, but they're tethered to the mother ship.
Because she gets very worried. She wants to know what I'm doing.
These young people are the leading edge of a great social experiment where parents carefully craft and manage their lives from the moment they're born. Today's children are the most overindulged and micromanaged in human history. Gymnastics classes before they can walk, the best of baby ballet, and the right preschool. More and more parents believe it's their job to pave the way for their child's success and to protect them from any adversity.
In the process of doing that, they rob them of the most critical skills they need to actually be successful out in the world.
I am waiting!
All right, let's go.
Parents mean well, but it turns out this intense focus on their children can be psychologically damaging. Today, kids are showing up at university with higher levels of anxiety than ever before.
Just want to make sure that they're proud of you or make sure that you're living up to their expectations.
When they finally enter the workplace, many hyper-parented kids are running into walls.
I've had 4 or 5 jobs in the last 6 years, and little bits of each performance review is like, you're so smart. You know, and then there's a different but at the end of each.
I think we're all born with an inner hyper parent. You know, it starts from the noble and natural instinct to do the best for our children, but it's tipped into a caricature, and it's backfiring on us.
That's your castle, princess. It's my daughter Abigail's first birthday, and it's a princess party. Oh, so cliche. She's our princess. And it's a milestone achievement. It really is a big thing.
Remember when birthdays were just birthdays, not achievements? When party highlights were apple bobbing and maybe a handful of coins hidden in the cake? Today, that just doesn't say enough about the value of our extraordinary offspring. These days, a birthday needs a magician or a clown, or maybe a visit from Cinderella.
Would you girls like to come and help me set up?
40 guests, 1 professionally designed cake, and $4,000 later, Abigail turns 1.
Happy birthday, Abigail. Big round of applause.
I'd say we're probably mid-range, smack dab in the middle for what a lot of other people have been doing for their children's first birthdays. I just hope that she'll look back and she'll see that, you know, we tried to really give her everything that she deserves.
So princess bracelet.
It was a personal experience that led Carl Honoré to write a book called Under Pressure about the phenomenon of hyperparenting. A Canadian now living in London, Honoré is a father of 2 who found himself falling into the hyperparent trap when his son's grade 2 art teacher dropped what Honoré calls the G-bomb.
She said, your son is a gifted young artist. And it was like I suddenly didn't hear anything else. All I could see was the word gifted up in neon with my son's name under it. So I went charging home, got on Google, and started looking for an art tutor. So how did it go, Benjamin, with the... And I said to my son, what do you think? I found an art tutor for you. And he just said to me, no, you know, I don't I don't want to tutor, I just want to draw. Why do grown-ups always have to take over everything? I realized that I had lost my bearings and that I was falling into this hyper-parenting frenzy just like everyone else.
Hyper-parents. They're over-involved, overprotective, and over-indulgent. It's a growing trend worldwide. In North America, it's known as the helicopter parent, who hovers and swoops down to solve problems. In Sweden, it's the curling parent, who frantically sweeps the ice to clear away obstacles. Hyper-parenting is so widespread among the middle and upper class that it's really become a social experiment in child-rearing, the results of which won't be fully known for years.
It seems to me that we've walked into a cultural perfect storm where a number of trends have intersected at the same moment to create this immense cultural pressure on parents to hyper-parent.
When boomers started having kids, they had them later in life, and they had fewer. The me generation suddenly had something as important to focus on as themselves. They saw their offspring as extremely precious cargo. Child rearing became an exercise in inflating self-esteem, where kids got a trophy just for showing up. In the consumer age, stores are overflowing with designer products for designer kids. Somehow, good parenting has become equated with purchasing power. Nothing but the best for the cherished child.
We expect now everything to be perfect. We want perfect teeth, perfect vacation, a perfect home, a perfect body, and we want a perfect child to round out this perfect portrait, that we can hold up to the world and say, look how wonderful I am because my child is an alpha child. There's a whole industry offering us products to make our kids 100% safe.
Thank you for calling Brick House Security. This is Leah. How can I help you?
New York's Brick House Security is part of a burgeoning new industry selling surveillance devices that allow parents to track and monitor their children pretty much 24/7. High-tech gadgets like GPS locators to attach to children's clothing. Something called Computer Spy.
Track your child online.
And Cell Phone Spy.
Remove the SIM card. Insert the SIM card into a computer. Retrieve messages. Even the deleted ones will show.
Sex and drug testing kits. And devices to track where teenagers are taking the family car. A kind of electronic leash.
I think parents today want the same level of visibility into their children's lives that their parents had into their lives. Today, you need a little more technology. Why is that? Because the kids have technology. It's like an arms race.
Kids need to feel that a parent trusts them enough to go out in the world. That's part of learning how to take care of yourself. So if you never let your child out, ride a bike, go to school, go to the store, they don't get any street smarts. They don't have that sense of competence.
One of the drumbeats of modern parenting is fear and anxiety. We're terrified that something bad is going to happen to our children. And one reason we're so afraid is, I think, the media.
Officers have been searching for clues to the girl's
issued an Amber Alert for the missing child.
This small town was shattered when the remains of the child were
the search for the little girl has intensified.
At about 10 at night, Madeline was gone.
The reality is abductions are lower now than they have been in many decades, and almost all abductions are by a parent in a conflict situation. But we act as if abductions are up. They're not.
And yet, every sensational child abduction results in a storm of emails from worried parents to this man. Kevin Warwick is a professor of cybernetics at Reading University in England, and he's a leading pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence. A few years ago, he implanted a microchip in his arm that linked him at all times to a computer. A microchip under the skin. An appealing notion for anxious parents like Sasha Bailey, who lives in London with her 3-year-old daughter, Maddie. The thought that Maddie might go missing is never far from her mum's mind.
Even just for 5 minutes, if they're out of your sight, especially at 3 years old, you turn around and they're gone, and they've just wandered off, and you worry where they are.
If Sasha could get an under-the-skin microchip that would allow her to track Maddie, she'd do it in a heartbeat.
Firstly, let me show you, a few years ago now, This is what I had implanted in my left arm.
In Warwick's case, the chip was used for identification, not tracking. But radio frequency technology is just about there for an implantable microchip that would allow a parent to track their child.
If you look at that little cross, that could be you. A child could be located within a city area. If you then had enough of these city areas, then you could get widespread coverage.
There are ethical concerns about implanting microchips in children, and the technology is not commercially available yet.
But if you said to me, here's some money, make the product, yes, within a short time we could put it together.
Today, parents see danger everywhere, even in children's most natural pastimes. Kids' friendly rough-and-tumble play can look aggressive, so we often step in to stop it. The wrong thing to do, according to neuroscience researcher Sergio Pellis. He's been researching the role social play has on brain development, especially rough-and-tumble play. In 2008, Pellis and colleagues set up a pioneering play experiment with 2 groups of juvenile rats. One was given lots of free playtime with other young rats, including the inevitable roughhousing. The other group was placed in cages with adult females. No peers, so no roughhousing. Then, researchers compared the group's brains. They discovered that the rats that were allowed to play developed more cell connections in the area of the brain responsible for decision-making. These rats were much better at solving social problems and coming up with solutions when faced with a new situation.
One of the core features of rough and tumble play is that both of you have to continually make very subtle social judgments about how do I interpret that particular action by my partner? And you have to continually assess that. And that's really training up your brain to be able to make very nuanced distinctions in a social situation, right? If you now take those same kids and put them in a soccer field, yeah, they get the exercise, that's terrific, nothing wrong with that. But the kids don't have to make a decision about, well, what are the rules? The rules have been pre-made for them. What's the enforcement? It's enforced by adults.
More adult-enforced play, less free play. It's one of the hallmarks of hyper-parenting.
You know, it's not enough now for a child just to play road hockey with his friends outside. He's got to be in a hockey camp, wearing full equipment, you know, with a coach and a referee. It's got to be formalized. It's got to be play that you can put on a resume.
Coming up, the pressure to build that resume.
It's important to kind of expose them the sooner the better and to kind of prepare them for future.
And still pushing and hovering, even as the kids head off to university.
But the parent will be the one asking the question. What do I need to do? How do I register?
Storm the Wall, a spring ritual at the University of British Columbia with conspicuous parallels to modern university entrance. Competition is fierce to get into university today, and parents aren't leaving it to chance or to their children.
The kids that I'm seeing are profoundly pressured. They're pressured not to just be good, they're pressured to be great, and they're not pressured just to be good at something, they're pressured to be extraordinary at everything.
Children have become almost like projects. You know, parenting has become a cross between a competitive sport and product development.
And it starts early, very early. Maria Louie was still pregnant when she began working on her baby's IQ.
It has a little device that plays a drum beat.
Baby Plus is a prenatal education system. It plays a sound that mimics a mother's heartbeat. The rhythm increases as the pregnancy progresses. Baby Plus claims to give Junior an intellectual, social, creative, and emotional advantage from birth. What parent could resist that?
I think we'd always been looking, this is going to sound so stupid, looking to see if there's anything that we can do to get a leg up on, you know, our Mensa baby. And so pretty much when she was born, we bought baby Einstein. Everybody else was doing it, so we did it too.
In the past decade, there's been an explosion of products claiming to stimulate a child's brain. This commercial obsession with infant brain development is basically a misinterpretation of a legitimate scientific breakthrough. Science discovered that there are more brain connections made in the early years of life than at any other time. This became known as the critical period of learning. It could have been a very useful social application, more stimulation for those children who don't get enough. But in the hands of middle-class parents, it just meant more pressure to stimulate baby at every turn so she won't be left behind. For 1-year-old Abigail, Saturdays are busy. She has swimming lessons and gymnastics, even though she can't yet walk on her own.
I just want to put her into the experience as much as possible.
It's a constant barrage of stimulation when in fact children don't need that. Children are hardwired to seek out the stimulation they need to knock their brains into shape.
1, 2, 3.
If only we would just back off a bit and give them the time and space to explore the world on their own terms, to play, to stimulate themselves, they would thrive much more.
I know it tickles, doesn't it?
These 4- and 5-year-olds have just completed junior kindergarten at Core Education and Fine Arts School in West Vancouver, a school that takes early childhood education very seriously.
The children that graduate from our school, what they have in common is that all of their parents are really, really interested in their education.
The curriculum is play-based and includes core subjects like reading, writing, and science, along with classes in fine arts, fitness, and yoga. More prep school than preschool, and there's a 3-year waiting list.
Normally, parents start signing up when their baby X is in the womb, so we have a lot of baby X applications.
So graduation is the culmination of a dream. A parent's dream.
Kind of, nervous, jittery, excited, but more than anything, proud.
Okay, we'll get one teacher over here.
Parents believe that the right preschool will lead to the right high school, the right university, and ultimately, the right life. Once you buy into the logic, it's hard to question the price.
For an all-day service, our fee is $1,200 per month, including lunches and field trips and everything that we do.
Good job.
So, what are we doing?
We are reading a story about...
Sanaz Esfahani gave up her career in the real estate business when she became a mum. It means a big drop in family income, but Sanaz is happy to make sacrifices for her children.
When you make that decision to become a parent, you sort of have to provide, and it's all about providing the best for your children.
Markers or pencils?
So why am I deciding?
Because you're the mom.
Do moms always make all the decisions?
Layli just graduated from that high-end junior kindergarten. Now, Sanaz is struggling to get her daughter enrolled in the right school.
2 years in a row, we applied to the same few private schools and got the rejection letters. How do you tell a 5-year-old that you're going for a 1-hour assessment, right, to see if you have the proper social skills, the adequate academic skills to be accepted to a private school? Why should there be an assessment for a 4 or 5-year-old?
Lights out.
Let's go, Lay.
Off we go.
Off we go. Bye-bye. Come on.
Without the desirable private school placement, Sanaz is still determined her daughter will have an enriched school experience. So every day she drives Layli from their home in downtown Vancouver to French immersion kindergarten in a more affluent neighborhood.
I figured, learning a new language, a huge world of opportunities out there awaits you because you get to communicate more and basically go further in life.
3 hours later, Sanaz picks Layli up to shuttle her to one of her extracurricular activities.
Au revoir, madame. Au revoir. À demain. I'm in my car all the time. It's my second bedroom. My trunk has extra juices, extra outfits. No, it's not as much as it was last year. We cut back a little bit, but right now she's going to gymnastics once a week. She has her private piano lessons, and she's got ballet.
The Anna Wyman School of Dance is one of the most prestigious ballet schools in the country. For Sanaz, that's important.
It's your kid. You can't settle for less, right?
Sanaz readily admits that there's a lot of competition among the parents.
And the first thing that everybody asks one another is, oh, what activities is your daughter in? You know, what sort of classes is she registered in? You know, as a new mom with Laylee, I was just kind of in a bit of a frenzy. I'd come home, I'd be like, okay, I've got the community center, I've got this music school, I've got that music school, I've got this gymnastics center, so it's just crazy, you know. To be honest with you, I'm still doing that today because I'm thinking of, okay, next term, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue with the same activities, you know? Hello.
The kids pick up on their parents' need to compete, and they start doing it too.
Because she says, oh, my friends from last semester are now in TAP as well. And it's all from us. We're the ones who've kind of projected that. It become like a mini you.
So we become victims, I think, of peer pressure. So even when we can feel in our bones that it would be good to ease off, to put less pressure on our kids, we're afraid to do it. We're ashamed because we're worried about that arched eyebrow from the alpha mom in the playground, you know, the disapproval of the neighbors, that feeling that if we step off the crazy train, that somehow everyone else will look down on us, and that keeps us going.
Parental anxiety is high because they think that their kid's going to be left behind. They think it's become so competitive that there won't be a job, that there won't be a place in the world for the kinds of things parents are always worried about. But there is a multi-billion-dollar industry out there that's feeding this.
Industries like tutoring have taken off during the last few years. 1 million Canadian kids now have tutors, and it's not because they're falling behind. The majority are already bringing home A's and B's.
I'm a fish that has sharp teeth and eats fish. A shark!
Like 1 in 3 Canadian parents, Roxanne Chemich and her husband Andrew pay for tutoring for 5-year-old Zachary and 3-year-old Azarius. Twice a week, Roxanne brings them here to Oxford Learning in Toronto's High Park. Azarius is in the Little Readers program for 3 to 6-year-olds.
What is this one?
Table.
Zachary has graduated to one-on-one tutoring. He's here to boost his English since his first language at home was Ukrainian. His parents want him accepted to private school, and they know he'll have to compete for one of the coveted spots.
On the first letter.
You got it. I think it's the competitive environment of schooling right now has just gotten, I mean, it was always there, let's see, when you were in high school, still even when I was growing up, and in college and university. But it's just kind of trickled down to the earlier years as well now.
This competitive environment means that the child's success is the parent's success, and educators are feeling the heat. Daryl Wakeham has been teaching in Vancouver for more than 30 years. He's had his share of run-ins with anxious, overbearing parents.
They'll have a son who has 98%, and then they'll say, what happened to the other 2%? They'll actually be phoning teachers every 2 or 3 days. How can his scores improve? How can he get better grades?
A few years ago, one of Wakeham's students created this shadow box representing the pressure he felt to excel.
You build a child who is continually in an anxious state, you'll find that the child will lie, will make up stories. The child will cheat simply because they can't accept failure.
Students, applicants, parents, welcome to Simon Fraser University Information Evening.
This information session is a chance to see what the university has to offer before you apply. or before your kid applies. There are 3,000 people here, and half of them are parents. Hovering parents are changing how universities operate.
The parent will be the one asking the question. The parent will be asking, though, what do I get? What do I need to do? How do I register?
So you need to check the email.
Okay. And can we also phone and see if we have been offered?
Yeah, definitely. You got my email address and you got my phone. Definitely give me a call and I can see what I can do.
I like to talk on the phone to somebody.
You got my phone number.
When I went to school, there was much more of an uneasiness from the student side to have the parent involved. It was, my grades are my business, I will pay for my own school, I'll do it on my own, leave me alone. Whereas what we're seeing now is much more of a desire from the student to have their parent involved.
Universities and colleges across the Western world have reached the same conclusion: to reel in students, hook their parents. And it's put pressure on school budgets. There are websites for parents, newsletters, and staff liaisons whose job it is to manage the parent who must know everything.
I'm still, to this day, flabbergasted by the number of times that students give their parent the student number, their login, and their full information so the parent can go in and see their grades, see their academic standing, their financial standing, check their email at any point in time.
Adolescence has always been a period of rebellion, and why these kids aren't pushing back is stunning to me. So I think they've been so hyper-parented for so long that they've internalized this hovering parent, and that feels kind of like home to them.
Coming up, when hyper-parented kids leave the nest, it's hard to fly carrying the weight of high expectations.
I think it's mostly the pressures of pleasing the people that I care about in my life, of not wanting to disappoint them.
And some parents follow their children right into the workplace.
We've even heard of instances where parents have tried to negotiate salary for their children.
Orientation Week at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. In a few months, these first-year students will be leaving home for the first time. They get a taste of their new world while parents get a lecture. Your kids are safe. Time to back off.
This generation is known for having parents that tend to hover.
I think parent orientations just started to come on the scene maybe 20 years ago, and back then parents sat very passively and were grateful for the information and pretty much let it go at that. Now they come in with expectations, with demands. A parent will call if there's a roommate conflict. The parent will call if the son or daughter is having trouble with the chemistry class.
What we're starting to see is the Black Hawk parent. This is the helicopter parent on steroids. The Black Hawk parent doesn't call me. The Black Hawk parent calls the president's office, says they want something done about that darn chemistry professor today, and if it doesn't happen, the next phone call will be from the lawyer.
One of the things that I think is important about an orientation program for parents is that it begins to teach parents to let go. They've never had to do this before. So we are teaching the parents as well as the students how to take that next step in that phase of their lives.
The campus at the University of Victoria buzzes with nervous energy as 900 first-year students start moving into residence.
How about if I roll it? And I'll pack it properly?
Yep.
Okay.
David McLeod is a first-year UVic student, or at least he's about to be. The campus is about a 3-hour drive from home.
I am really excited. I can't wait to live on my own. You know, have the freedom. No one has to know where I am all the time. All that fun stuff. I'm sorry. Nothing against you.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm happy for him, but I'm just not so happy for Keith and I.
The job of parenting is always independence, not dependence. That's the job of parenting. You haven't done your job if by the time your child leaves home, they're dependent on you for navigating the world.
Yes, my miscellaneous.
In their heads, all parents know this, but the heart can send a different message. Keep in touch, keep track.
I might call them once every 2 or week or 2, maybe.
Yeah, once a week is good.
Once a week, I guess.
Once a week would be nice.
Are you sure?
If possible, it sure would be.
I might be very busy sometimes.
Ready to go? Yep. Well, when I went to university, my parents dropped me off at residence, headed home, and then that was pretty well it.
Let's just grab it and take it right into your room.
But after years of shuttling kids to school, soccer practice, band, tutoring, it follows that the move into university residence just can't be done without help from Mom and Dad.
I don't think I'm a helicopter parent. I try to hold back, but you want to know where they are, who they're with, what time they're coming home. It's just, you just want them to be safe. So now they'll be on their own and you won't have any knowledge of that. And I'm just going to put this on top of it because I want you to have clean sheets. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Okay.
You're not allowed to cry.
I won't.
It's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now, David's on his own.
Enjoy yourself.
I will.
And his parents' job is done, right?
Oh gosh, no. No, we'll still be in touch with them a lot.
If you think of the time, money, and energy that we're investing in our children, you would expect that we would be seeing now the emergence of the happiest, healthiest children the world has ever seen. But, you know, let's be honest, that's just not what's happening out there.
Psychologist Erica Horowitz has been counseling university students for 15 years. Like most of her colleagues at campuses across the continent, the most common reason students seek her out used to be rocky romance. Now, it's anxiety.
And when you have a lot of anxiety, your mind is saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I don't pass? What if I don't get the A? What if I don't graduate? And when you have that kind of mindset, that ends up triggering depression too, right? So we often find that the two come hand in hand.
At weekly mindfulness meditation sessions, Erica helps students relax.
As the air travels in and out.
These aren't struggling students. They're high achievers. But all the attention their well-meaning parents gave them has created an unfortunate side effect. Anxious kids. Sometimes severely anxious kids.
You definitely want to make them proud. And when you're not succeeding or when you're not getting the A's or whatever, you feel like you're letting them down.
The analogy that we use is that it's like a vacuum inside us, the fear of failure, and it's just sucking other things in and the pressures and the stress in with it. And it's really hard to like turn that vacuum off, the sucking, because it's just like pulling in other things and you're doing stuff out of fear instead of enjoyment and being.
We're the apple of our parents' eyes, and they would do anything for us. We've been protected and we've been cared for, and we've been told that we can be anything. And going into school and trying to achieve those goals, that's incredibly stressful.
Praise now is perhaps the new, it's like the new criticism. Like behind every praise is an expectation for the behavior to be repeated.
They're afraid of failure, and of course failure is a hugely important part of life. You know, you need to take risks. You make a mistake, you get up, you dust yourself down, you learn and you move on. But a child that has been told that he's so special that he won't take risks never goes down that road.
Coming up, hyper-parented kids graduate into the workplace. But are they ready for the real world?
They have this sort of arrogant sense of entitlement that when they come into a company that they really feel that they are special.
The first wave of this social experiment, hyper-parented kids, is entering the workplace. Demographically, they're the biggest bulge since the baby boom. And for many of their parents, hovering is a hard habit to break.
This involvement of parents in the workplace is totally new and totally shocking to companies.
A veteran reporter and editor for the Wall Street Journal, Ron Alsop is author of The Trophy Kids Grow Up.
There clearly is this new trend of parents coming into the workplace in one way or another, either getting the information to apply for the job for the kids, trying to get into the job interview.
Demographer Richard Brown works for the BC government. He watches trends in both the public and private workplace.
So the most common thing that we see is parents coming and helping their children set up their workstations. So mom and dad bring up the plants and they bring up books and they help their children get all settled in and that sort of thing. Now we're starting to get even less benign. So the child has had a problem with a supervisor, the parent might call, or the parent might come in and talk to that supervisor. And then in some cases, we've even heard of instances where parents have tried to negotiate salary for their children.
Sometimes called millennials or Generation Y, they are the most prized, precious, and managed children of all time. And that has created a new breed of worker, challenging everything from dress codes to office hierarchy.
The biggest criticism of millennials is that they have this sort of arrogant sense of entitlement. So many companies tell me that these young people, they don't know that they need to arrive on time each day. They don't listen to their iPods at their desks all the time. They don't text message during meetings. Again, older people find them to be very demanding, very spoiled, and just totally unrealistic.
If millennials could design an ideal workplace, this would be it. Electronic Arts in Burnaby, BC is one of the world's leading developers of video games.
A lot of our industry, because it's so young, we have the opportunity to kind of throw out the old rule book.
Millennials want to have fun at work. They can't stand boredom. Here, every day is casual Friday, and be yourself at work is company policy. But even in this environment designed to cater to their every need, millennials are a challenge for managers.
That's a generation that really expects to see themselves move up very, very quickly. Much, much more quickly than any other generation. The phrase, pay your dues, does not really enter into the vernacular of the millennials.
The games industry relies on talent that is pretty much exclusively young, so it's good business for Electronic Arts to accommodate the millennial employee. But most businesses aren't so eager to rewrite the rule book, and that can spell trouble for the millennial worker. 28-year-old Adrienne Cousins has always been center stage, a superstar. As a child, she shone at dance, piano, horseback riding. She was class president in high school and graduated with a 90% average. After university, Adrienne quickly landed a job as a healthcare systems analyst. A good job, but not a good fit.
Looking back on all my performance reviews, there's something I heard a lot was, you're really smart, but, I was sometimes late, or I would always start later in the day, and I was never there by 8 a.m. I was always a 9:30 girl, maybe 5 minutes late for meetings, things like that. The other thing was managing up, which basically means, giving feedback to direct supervisors, to other departments.
Adrienne's feedback to her bosses? There's only one difference between you and me: age.
And it was funny because the reaction they had was they kind of swallowed hard and wanted to say something like, you little, I have 20 years experience on you, we're not the same at all.
In the last 6 years, Adrienne has changed jobs 4 times. And in spite of uneven performance reviews, she was making a lot of money. She was also racking up major debt on travel and a new condo. A generation ago, she might well have been caught in a velvet trap. But that is not the millennial spirit. At 27, Adrienne quit a $90,000 a year job and borrowed more money so that she could retrain and start her own business.
I went in with so much confidence because I have that can-do anything attitude.
Her company, Affinities, offers life and leadership coaching, massage, and dance lessons.
And so I said, you know, this is going to be hard. I'm going to just do it, and kind of threw myself into it and quit my job. And probably too soon, but well, definitely too soon.
Unable to pay the rent, today Adrian's packing up her massage studio. Her can-do attitude just wasn't enough to make her business successful.
I think I realized that, you know, honestly, just a couple months ago, kind of going, okay, this isn't working. And I'm officially past a point where I can sustain myself.
Now $87,000 in debt, Adrian sees bankruptcy as the only way out.
Did you have any credit cards to give me, or were they in the package?
Right now?
Yeah.
No, I just sent you my income tax information. You didn't ask for it.
Yeah. One of your duties is to provide all your credit cards to the trustee.
I don't think I respected money as much as I should have, or as much as I want to now.
So let me just get you a receipt for this.
I don't have any money. And I really didn't want to have to go back to my parents for that kind of support. They're almost, for the last couple of months, have been kind of giving me an allowance almost, because they, you know, they're scared. They're scared that I'm not able to support myself anymore.
Her parents want her to move home, but she's not ready to do that. She sold her condo and will couch surf for a while. And she'll do it with a certain millennial style.
You know, I still have my, for example, my iPhone, and, you know, that's an expensive bill. I'm not going to cut out wine and coffee and pedicures. I'll just cut it back a bit, but I don't think it'll go away, because it's part of the things that I like to do for myself.
Adrian doesn't see herself as a failure. She's convinced it's not her or her generation that needs to change.
I feel really strongly about the potential of my generation in terms of, you know, solving the problems of the world we've inherited. And yeah, that Gen Y is actually pushing the curve and making change happen instead of just talking about it.
We don't know exactly how these kids will turn out. Part of me is really concerned about them, but it may be that they're just young, and that what hyperparenting has done has been to delay their growth.
But eventually, the millennials will grow up. The question is, as they raise their own children, will they be hyper parents? Or, like every generation before them, will they choose a different direction from mom and dad?
I find now wherever you go that people are asking the same question, which is this really what we wanted for our kids? You know, is this really what we wanted for ourselves? And increasingly, answer is no. People are realizing that we've gone way too far down the wrong path. And the upside is that they're starting to do something about it. They're starting to back off. They're starting to look for new ways to give children a real childhood.